The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, good morning, everyone, wherever you're joining us from. Uh, Thank you for spending a few minutes with FluentPro in our webinar for June, end of June, right before holidays in the United States. Today, we're going to be talking about expanding PPM capabilities through multiple Project Online sites. And we use the word Project Online, as I've stated before in other webinars. This could apply also to a project server farm. So Project Online being the most common mode now of Microsoft PPM deployments, we're addressing that explicitly, but you can take some of the techniques. In fact, some of the techniques that I'm going to talk about have been done in the past with project server farms. So don't despair if you're a project server user. So let's get started. The talking points today, I'm going to be talking about PPM capability as a best practice and some of the latest and greatest information from the market. Um, Gartner PPM Symposium just finished. The Gartner Magic Quadrant just came out in May, so we can have an update on that perspective and where it's growing. We'll go into the what does that mean for us as Microsoft PPM users, practitioners, and what's that context for Microsoft PPM. We are going to then show you how FluentPro can support uh, expanding the PPM capability with the products, and those of you that are our customers, will recognize some of those capabilities that you might be already using. We're going to talk about recommended next steps if you are interested in expanding PPM in your organization, and then we'll take a few questions. Before we start, what I'd like to do is find out who we have with us today. So I'll go ahead and turn on one of our polls. Go ahead if you could. If you're online, what is your role? Trying to understand who do we have with us. Are you a project manager? Are you an admin, a team member, an executive, PMO lead? Or are you an external consultant implementer that's actually helping customers? Feel free to vote, and we'll go ahead and close the polls in a couple of seconds. All right, most of everyone's awake in the presentation. We see that there's a lot of project server admins on the web in the webinar, a lot of PMO team members, a lot of consultants, implementers. So I think it's a good representation of uh, individual stakeholders that can benefit from understanding how to go about expanding PPM capabilities with multiple uh, project sites. So let's get started. In terms of the capability best practice, I like to start with definition just to give everybody in context. Um, Enterprise PPM really should enable faster decision making by uh, addressing these critical information that is being collected for projects and portfolios. So,
Say, I'm sorry to interrupt. We can't see your screen. Can you please reshare? Sorry. Yeah, thank you.
okay, thank you. So in terms of the enterprise PPM capability, what we're trying to do is really enable executives that make decisions with data on projects and portfolios, so they can decide where they're going to allocate the resources to uh, achieve organizational strategy. In terms of that capability, it actually deconstructs into a number of focus areas or process areas. So if you've implemented Project Server, Project Online, you know that you can focus on one or multiple areas of the solution, of a PPM solution. This, by the way, is universal. In other words, Gartner actually looks at all these areas when they're actually rating capabilities of a solution. So uh, it's important to know that you can address as you're evolving every one of these individual areas and evolve over time in every one of them. Now, as all of you also know, it's important to understand that it's not only the system, so it's people, process that also has to be taken into account, and usually it's the hardest part of developing the capability for the organization because there are many different uh, business areas, business groups, and they can interpret. They have different processes, they have different requirements. So just don't forget about that, and I'll address that later because it's a core component before expanding within the organization that you do have to address these areas. It's not just about turning on a PWA site and configuring it. You actually have to make sure if it's going to be adopted that you're integrating the process and you're taking care of the adoption by the users. The technology can be actually the simplest part at times. Uh, so what happened this year? Again, some insights from Gartner PPM 2018 and some takeaways that you can take to your organizations. The standard use cases that Gartner is measuring tools is the IT PPM, enterprise-wide PPM, which is an EPMO, and I'll talk a little bit more about that because that's the one that's getting the most attention right now. Reporting PPM, basically providing an inventory of projects and status, and then finally collaborative, which is trying to bring everyone together under one central tool with one single source of the truth in terms of projects and portfolios. The bottom part is probably the one that was pushed the most, I think, throughout the entire Gartner symposium because there's this. It's a known concept, so we're not hearing anything necessarily new, but there's a heavy emphasis on driving investment and driving change, especially as it relates to digital transformation and delivering on strategy. So what that means in the context of a PPM is that you actually should be providing different parts of the organization the ability to manage their different types of projects in a system. So it's no longer the case that we should have just one uh, PWA for one area of the organization. We need to give everyone the ability to execute projects and plan portfolios to drive that roll up of strategic execution. That's what this strategic execution management box is about. Uh, in terms of how to for PMO admins, um, project management offices, there's a series of steps that were uh, given as best practice. I think a lot of them we already take into account where we're implementing. We do have a PPM lifecycle that we integrate into our solutions through workflows, through stage gates. Uh, the second one we've been talking about for a while also, which is the opportunity to enhance. You're always looking for improvement. There's an article in our blog about doing continuous improvement of PPM as a way to deliver more value. Uh, there is tool proliferation going on, and I think in the context of Office 365, there's Planner, there's SharePoint Online, there's other ways of going about working. So if you're an Office 365 organization, we have to embrace that there's different modes of work and different tools that are going to come to the table. The focus on matching life cycle stages with tools, goes again with the life cycle that we talked about earlier. And the last one, I think, most impressive that they recognize that now we should be integrating all information into PPM, which means that in the context of Project Online and Project Server, we have to look for those opportunities to bring data sets into the reporting database so that we can have one common set of information. Last set of recommendations were eliminating consolidated overlapping tools. I know it's easier said than done because business units have the ability to go and procure on their own sometimes. Rationalize tools that are needed and do not overlap, and then retire old tools. And all of this really points to that what we need to do is, have a picture like the one here on the bottom left, which is, can we actually deliver project online sites for the different parts of the organization in order to meet that need and that consolidation that is being recommended to deliver on strategy and deliver on investment. So I'm going to go ahead and do the second poll now. And if you can go ahead and give us your input and where you are located within the organization. Glad to see that there's a lot of folks from IT PMOs, business PMOs. Excellent. We'll go ahead and close the poll. So this is great because the next part of the presentation is really about how we can evolve the IT PMO, business PMO to deliver that capability to the enterprise. So we will continue with the presentation. We want to talk about now about the Microsoft PPM context and what that means. And what I have here is kind of a historical perspective. In no way does it represent the majority of cases, but there's a tendency to just deploy to one single business unit, one line of business, either in IT, most common, or at an enterprise PMO, or within a department. And the tendency is that in most cases they are disconnected, somewhat independent, and there's no organizational learning. So in terms of actually having the ability to drive that strategic execution management, that program management, investment program management, we haven't really done a good job. And I know that there's many reasons why we could attribute that, but we have the ability through Project Online specifically, and even if you have Project Server, to drive that consolidated view of PPM within the organization. So that's really what we're trying to strive, kind of overcome this tendency to have disconnected, independent PWAs and have more of a centralized approach. So I'm going to take one last poll just to see how many of you are doing this. Okay, does your organization have multiple PWA sites? And it could be for Project Server or Project Online, by the way. So not very strange in terms of the conclusions. We have, the majority of folks that are either using one production PWA site or have future plans to do multiple sites, which goes to my prior slide in terms of where we are in terms of evolving the PPM capability within the organization. Really, where we want to go is that picture that was provided by Gartner. So we want to have that enterprise strategic execution perspective. So are we delivering on strategy? Are we delivering on the investment? And I haven't used the famous, well, I will use it now for the second time, digital transformation that everybody talks about. That's really where it's happening. We're actually delivering on strategy to transform the business. Also, the other buzzword is innovation. So we can measure it if we actually have that roll up, that perspective of what's happening in our individual PWAs. So a business unit functional area is going to receive one, and a segment of that data, which will actually roll up into the that enterprise PPM data repository, so we can report to executives what's happening with those major initiatives. So the concept is that all PPM data needs to be rolled up for true enterprise PPM value. And then, as I said before, there is a lot of best practices, varying methodologies, the way that PWAs are used and configured across the organization. We need to leverage that in order to avoid overinvestment. There's probably a lot of knowledge in pockets of the organization that are using Project Server or Project Online, and you can get a lot by reusing what is applicable from those implementations. So one critical success factor for making this a success is basically to start collecting all of them and collecting those practices, those learnings that you have in how you have deployed, and putting it into an internal implementation guide. Now here, what it should cover are basically this guide. If somebody comes to IT or an area of the organization that's responsible for Project Online, Project Server, the idea is that they will receive this guide and they'll know what services are available to them, okay, from an IT perspective, and what the requirements for onboarding are. In other words, if you decide to get into using Project Online or Project Server, this is what will be expected of you, both in terms of support, in terms of investment, in terms of requirements. Don't get in the game unless you're ready to embark on this journey. And that the guide should address process and methodology, the implementation steps that you're going to go through, what tool training is available either through existing assets or new assets or online assets, and then what the support scope is going to be for the group that's going to be coming on board with new Project Online, Project Server. So this is something that can probably develop internally. If you've already deployed one PWA, the rest of the organization can benefit from having a guide like this internal to their organization. So how does FluentPro products, how do we support this notion of enabling multiple sites, which is now a best practice for driving execution management, strategic execution management? So you can actually leverage all of our products. So all of our products in some way or another drive that consolidated view, whether you're talking about having templates in FluentBooks, copying sites in GA Suite, or even financials, driving roll-ups across multiple sites through reporting. But at a minimum, if you're interested in actually expanding the usage, you will need administrative tools, because the overhead of doing work manually and configuring multiple sites and expanding to what is potentially available in a farm or in Project Online Tenant is overwhelming, and the investment in administration is going to be significant. So what we are going to show is, in what ways does FluentBooks, does the GA Suite for Project Online, does the Pulse Data Mart and the Integration Hub, how can they help drive that expansion of PPM capabilities in the organization? So what I'm going to do now is turn it over to my colleague Irina, who's going to show us how we can do this.
Hello, everyone. Please let me know if you can see my screen now.
Yes, we can.
Okay. The first tool that we would like to quickly review today is G Suite, and like how it can help in terms of expanding organizations' PPM capabilities through multiple PWA sites. And it can actually help a lot, because it can help already creating a new PWA sites. As you provision your PWAs, you can easily upload your gold image or enterprise standard from one PWA to another, and start working with your new PWAs right away. It makes the process very easy and automates the whole process actually. It can also help if your organization only starts working with Project Online and you don't have the cold image at all. You can use G Suite Solution Builder in this case, using which you can easily deploy the initial PWA configuration to multiple PWAs at once. And as you already have the configuration on several PWAs, you can always compare one PWA to another on the configuration level and check either if the upload process was successfully or if you perform any changes further on one of the PWA environments. You can always see what these changes are and what the data you need to upgrade to your PWAs. So let's review. I will open G Suite and we will review the first scenario. If you would like to, like if you have already created new PWAs and you need to populate the gold image to different PWAs. For example, let's say I already have the test PWA that I'm working with, and to create more PWAs with the same configuration, I can use G Suite. So as you open G Suite, you can add as many environments here as needed. In my case, I have development, production PWA, and you can create links in advance between these PWAs. And as you add the environments here and create these links, you can easily see the scheme, so to say, of how the data flow is performed within your PWAs, how the data is transferred. As you create these links, you can just easily launch the uploads process because, and actually this functionality can be accessed from the home page directly. So you can just select the PWA where you would like to take the configuration from and select the configuration copy functionality. And if you have the links created, then G Suite will already prompt you the target PWA where this configuration can be uploaded right away. So if we click here, we will get to the screen where we will see that the target environment is already pre-selected and configuration is also selected here. By default, it is fully selected, but you can also decide on what elements you are taking to your new PWA site. Either it will be a full configuration copy or you can just take the ones you need. And you can just click start and the upload process begins and the configuration will be uploaded to one of your PWAs. And later you can do the same, like you can move the data to the production PWA as well. And if we open the environment itself, you will see that the copies option is available from the list of actions for this particular PWA, and the PWA configuration snapshot section also allows you to quickly deploy the initial PWA configuration to one or multiple PWA sites. If you create more links to the same environment, then you will have more prompts here and you can just easily deploy the PWA configuration there. As you are already working with your PWA sites, with multiple PWA sites, and you need the configuration to be the same, you can schedule the data copying here. You can create a scheduling profile, provide the title here, decide when it will take place, and select the copying. Select the environment where the data will be transferred, select PWA configuration, either fully or partially, and create this scheduling profile, and the data copying, like PWA configuration copying from one PWA to another will be done automatically by schedule. Let's say every week all the changes will be upgraded from your test environment to development and then to production. You can create multiple schedules and manage your PWAs later. one more option that I would like to mention is the comparison. So as I have mentioned previously, as you're already working with your PWE environments, you can easily compare one PWE to another and see how they differ on the configuration level. Or if you have just performed the upload of PWE configuration, you can check if everything is a full match there. And again, this functionality can be accessed from the home page directly. You can just click on the menu option, select comparisons, and G Suite already prompts you to compare your test environment to the development PWA because I have a link created there, right? So we can just select this option. The environment is already specified here. We can just click start, and in a few minutes we will receive an Excel file. I will open an Excel file that I have previously created to make it faster. And in this Excel file, we can review the source and target PWAs that we have selected for this comparison and how, like what is going on with these two PWAs, if they are exactly the same on the configuration level, if they differ and how they differ, if they do. And if any of the elements are different, we can review the details as well. So we can see that there is a different UAD or like the details, like the difference in values. So it's quite detailed and it gives us the understanding of how we can proceed working with our PWA sites. So this is what G Suite offers in terms of expanding organizations' PPM capabilities through multiple PWE sites. And one more option that I would like to show within G Suite is Solution Builder, is when you don't have the cold image at all and you would like to start working with multiple PWAs, you can use FluentPro Solution Builder, the configuration, like the cold image that we offer, and deploy it to one or multiple sites. We will need to provide the title here. Select the URL where we would like to deploy this initial PW configuration. Provide the details here, click register, and we will get to the first step of this tool where you will be able to add the project fields first and then task fields, resource fields. You can also decide on the PDPs, EPTs, views, and like here, you will see the list of the custom fields that you plan to deploy to this new PWA. And of course, you can exclude any fields from here or include more fields. You can create new fields that your organization will be working with and like deploy this information to your PWA. You can also save this configuration and then come back to it later, perform more changes there, and then just deploy the configuration as you are ready. And as you have this information on one PWA, this gold image, you can populate it to multiple PWAs using G Suite tools again. So on the next step, I would like to quickly show you how you can use FluentBooks to replicate PWA configuration to multiple PWA sites. And using FluentBooks, you can also decide to either fully transfer the configuration from one PWA to multiple to like other PWAs that your organization is working with or plan to work with. Or you can perform the selective copying of data of PWA configuration, taking only the elements you need to the target PWA. So FluentBooks allows to perform the selective like migration as well. It can also be used to bulk change PWA configuration or to add new elements in a bulk to the existing PWA site or multiple sites at one go. For example, if a new division was created within your organization and you need to add a couple of new resources or custom fields or lookup tables or even projects, you can easily do this in a bulk with the help of FluentBooks and then just like deploy this information to multiple PWA sites. So FluentBooks also allows to migrate projects from other systems with a PPM migration module. So this capability is also available, and I will open FluentBooks to quickly show you how this can be done. So the first scenario will be to replicate the existing PWA site to multiple PWAs, and the first step will be to download PWA configuration from the source system into FluentBooks workspace. And as we select the elements we would like to download and later upload to the target PWA, we can just go next. And as we have this information in the workspace, we will be able to upload it to our PWAs. Actually, if you are already working with PWA, like if you already have the at least one PWA and you would like to expand and use more PWAs within your organization, you can perform configuration audit first using FluentBooks and see what is being used on your existing PWA site and what is not used at all. And then you can, like based on this configuration audit, you can maybe decide to exclude some configuration elements and like upload only the elements that are in use to your multiple PWA sites. So it is also possible to perform this configuration audit first to decide what is needed in the new environments. So as it is ready, I will click close and finish here, and now we can select what elements we would like to take to the target environment, or you can select everything at one go. Click export option, select upload configuration wizard, and just deploy this configuration to another PWA site. Another use case is when a new division was created, as I have mentioned previously, and in this case you can easily create new resources. Let's say I need to create a few new generic resources, a few custom fields and lookup tables, and this can also be done with FluentBooks in a bulk. For this purpose, we will need to download the data into the workspace again and select at least one resource, custom field, and lookup table, like echelon data that will be present in the Excel file. And I will go to the File menu, select Export option, click Export Workspace Data to Excel, select Custom Fields, Lookup Tables, and Resources, click Export, and Excel file will be created and opened for us. And in this Excel file, we can just easily populate, like add new resources, new resource rates if needed, resource availabilities, resource calendar exceptions, add new fields, add new lookup tables, and lookup values as well. I will open an Excel file where I have already added this new information, so we don't wait while for me to type it in. I have added a few new resources, generic resources, and I've added 2 new custom fields and lookup tables, and the lookup tables values as well. So I will click Save and Close here, and the next step will be to go to Import option, select Import Workspace Data from Excel, provide the Excel where we have added this new data, select the elements, click Import, close, and we can now review that this data appeared in the workspace. Let's select the data here, and we can check that like this data is now present in the workspace before we upload it to the destination PWA. I think I didn't use the correct Excel file, but yeah, so as you check that everything is in place in the workspace, you can deploy these changes to your PWA, and later you can reuse the same Excel file to upload these new elements to multiple PWA sites. So you don't need to walk through the whole process again and again. So what else you can do using FluentPro tools? If you're working with multiple PWA sites, is you can create reports from multiple PWAs and have this information in one place. And for this purpose, you can use our reporting tool DataMart. And on this slide, you can see DataMart architecture, how it works from the inside, so to say. And the main idea of DataMart is that it provides the on-premise replica of Project Online data. It automatically combines multiple OData feeds and metadata and extracts all the data from Project Online, and then it stores it in the SQL Server database. Like on the first step, like DataMart Sync Service loads the metadata first about how the PWA is configured, what custom fields are used, how they're used in EBTs, and so on and so forth. And then it builds the tables and views in SQL Server database. And on the next step, it loads the OData feeds and also normalizes those feeds to a set of SQL Server tables. So this is how it is displayed in the SQL database server. And the synchronization is performed by schedule. So again, it's automated. And as the synchronization is performed, the loaded data can be used either using native EPM Pulse visualizations, and it was actually designed for project management needs mostly, or you can use any third-party reporting solutions like SSRS reports or Power BI, and actually now FluentPro offers a cloud version of DataMart as well. And it is possible to work with several PWAs at once and to have the reports from multiple PWAs in one place. I will open EPM Pulse and I will show you an example of how like it can be done, how you can switch between several PWAs while presenting. So EPM Pulse has a set of dashboards and storyboards, and a lot of dashboards and storyboards are predefined. They come with every EPM Pulse instance. They already exist in the system, and you can add as many connections to EPM Pulse as needed, 2 PWAs, 3, or any number, and then just switch between them while presenting. So I will open one storyboard, and working with this storyboard, like reviewing this storyboard, the executive team can easily understand what is going on in the system, like on the high level. So it can review the information for the work, cost, the timeline, the projects information, the late projects, late milestones, if there are any. And I have several PWAs, 2 PWAs here, my development environment and production environment. These are the views that can be either used you can use the default views or you can use your own views, and then just switch between different PWAs and present the information accordingly. So as soon as I report on my development PWA, I can switch to production and present the information for my production PWA accordingly. All these parts here on the left, they are dashboards, and as you open each dashboard, you can again present the information differently. For example, for like portfolio roadmap for my development and production PWA, portfolio overview, the resource pool usage for these two PWAs, how the resources are used, can be easily reviewed. And also we have the projects dashboard where you can review the information for each project in your PWAs, like report on every project separately. So this is how you can use our reporting tools. And the last thing that I would like to show you is FluentPro Integration Hub. If you're working with different PPM systems, you can use Integration Hub to integrate the data from one system to another. So for example, the development team can easily integrate their projects from VSTS to Project Online or from Jira to Project Online, and project managers or just users who use Planner instead of Project Online on a daily basis, they can use Integration Hub to move the data from Planner to Project Online and vice versa. So all the data from different systems is stored in one place. It makes the process easier. And I will open Integration Hub just to show you like what scenarios we offer, and like you can see that Project Online and SharePoint Online can be integrated. Project Online and VSTS, Project Online and Planner, Jira and Dynamics, Project Online and Office 365. So we offer quite a lot of scenarios, and we add more all the time. So this tool can also be used in terms of like expanding the organization's usage of the PPM tools. So with that, I'll give it back to Jose to continue.
Okay, thank you, Irina, for that. Showing us all the capabilities that FluentPro has to enable expansion of your project online sites. So, some recommended steps if your organization is looking into this ability to expand your usage of Microsoft PPM. The first one is to sell the value of having that strategic execution management perspective. I mean, historically, it's been an EPMO, even just having an enterprise project inventory of the most important projects. Develop the business case for what you're going to be delivering to the organization in terms of that PPM enterprise perspective. We recommend creating or leveraging work that you've already done to create that standard configuration. It could be fairly straightforward in terms of the number of enterprise custom fields, number of generic resources that are used, but it's something that you're going to have and be able to reuse as parts of the organization come and enter into project web app, project server, project online site. You'll be able to deploy it quicker, and you won't necessarily need to start from scratch, having an empty PWA site. The third one is also very important because you need to define what the service offering is going to be um, from your part of your organization. If you happen to be, an IT or at the EPMO, what are the boundaries in terms of what you will provide and what other folks will provide. I think eventually it evolves into a community of practice or a center of excellence for project online or project server, where all the different user groups can come together and share best practices and work together. But first, that service offering in terms of what's going to be provided versus what the user group is going to have to procure separately needs to be defined. To get the rolled up reporting, you need to have that standard consolidated reporting or PPM rollup, enterprise PPM rollup, and it could just be 3 fields. Here you're talking only about being able to provide, that top-down perspective of all of the strategic projects in the organization, their costs, and so on. So if a business unit is in a PW, it was using Project Online, Project Server, and is executing strategic projects, you want that data set to be able to roll up, and that means that there has to be some common fields within the configuration in order for that roll up to occur. And we showed that that occurs through our data mart product. An important step, if the IT PMO or EPMO are not the Office 365 administrators, you can need to partner with them in the context of developing a process for PW request and the creation of that PWA site, both the test dev production if you're going to have 3, or if it's going to be only test and production for the new organization. So you have to get that process well defined. It can be a stopping, it can be a blocker if you're trying to expand and you don't have that ironed out. And then, as we said, we provide tools to lessen the burden of getting all of this done, basically saving time for the administrators. So take into account that you're going to need tools in order to manage the change management process within the sites. So in terms of resources, we do have a new help center, and it's available with all of our products. It's slightly different experience that we had in our regular help site. The standard help site, help.fluentpro.com, is still available, but the help center, which can be accessed through our website, contains more concise information into all of the different products that we talked about today. So feel free, and with it, as we provide for all the products also trials for those that are not through the Microsoft Store. You can make contact directly, and we can enable those in case you're interested in getting a trial of any of them on any of your test sites. We'll go ahead and answer some questions if there's any right now. So there was one question on, can migration of data between project server and any other version, an upgrade, or between farms. That is a standard capability of standard capability of FluentBooks specifically. So that it's one of the core features, actually, migration of data. So we can definitely support that through the product. Both import and export of data between farms or between project server, project online. There's a comment on resource management data cannot be shared between PWAs. That's correct. That's actually one of the main determinants of whether you're going to have multiple organizations in one PWA or have multiple PWAs. However, the technique that we're advocating here is actually having some common configuration elements that then you're going to be able to report through the data mart that we showed. So right now for customers, what we're doing is basically taking individual PWA data, putting it on as part of the data mart, and then reporting from the data mart capacity and utilization. Now, yeah, you do have a challenge there in the sense that you might have doubled up resources, but it's the best compromise rather than having multiple organizations within one PWA, which is a valid strategy and design for PWA, but it's not the only one. So it is a good point that you can't the resource pools are separate. However, you can actually report on them across multiple PWAs. We will make the recording and the presentation available to everyone that joins, so thank you for participating. And one last question, what does sync migrate from one PWA to another via GA Suite? You can actually replicate PWAs on a scheduled basis or ad hoc using GA Suite. So think of GA Suite at this point, because we'll be evolving it as a very limited version of what FluentBooks provides. So, and then there's a follow-up here. Irina, I think you might have to answer this one. What does not sync when you migrate? I believe that you can copy an entire PWA with everything, correct?
Well, yes, you can transfer PWA configuration, project sites, pretty much everything from one site to another.
Is there anything that does not sync?
The timesheets, I think that the timesheets can only be backed up, restored
okay.
to the same PWA, but they cannot be transferred from one PWA to a different, like to the whole new site.
Change to a site, but you can back them up and restore them.
You can, yes, back them up and restore, but no transferring.
Not replicate, okay. Okay, yeah, that is all we have, and I want to thank everyone for joining us. There do not appear to be any additional questions. Thanks a lot for being part of our end of June webinar, and look forward to seeing you in our future webinars, and have a good rest of your day.
Thank you, bye.